Look at that.
Very proud of you.
Here we go. The camera also shines a light. I saw the funny expression I make when I'm shocked. I decided my clothes were frumpy, and I realized I've spent years saying it's fine on repeat. It's fine because I'm angry and don't have the words for it. It's fine because it's not worth the effort to explain. It's fine, though I might be doing my best to hold the family together while feeling overwhelmed. It's fine because that's what I've been trained to be. Fine, small, not a bother.
Hi, besties. It's Aria from TLC The Sister Chapter. Guess what? Christine Brown's book is coming out on September 2nd, and while some of you in my comments on a daily basis are a little bit skeptical about what she's going to share in her book and whether or not she's going to dive in and give us all the gory details, what I will say about the synopsis that she just read, or the quote from the back of her book that she just read in an Instagram post, tells me that Christine Brown is deconstructing, deprogramming, realizing that the things she said on the show were based upon training that she had received, indoctrination, and the fact that she was told from a very young age to not be a bother, to be amiable, and to be okay with anything. Here's the full clip.
Hi, besties. It's Kody from Without a Crystal Ball. Guess what? Christine Brown's book is coming out on September 2nd. And while some of you in my comments on a daily basis are a little bit skeptical about what she's going to share in her book and whether or not she's going to dive in and give us all the gory details, what I will say about the synopsis that she just read, or the quote from the back of her book that she just read in an Instagram post, tells me that Christine Brown is deconstructing, deprogramming, realizing that the things she said on the show were based upon training that she had received, indoctrination, and the fact that she was told from a very young age to not be a bother, to be amiable, and to be okay with anything. Here's the full clip.
The truth about the Brown family is that there really is only one person in the family, and that's Christine, who had the deepest ties into polygamy. And her family has it on both sides. No other member of this family, even Meri or Robyn, had the deep history of polygamy. Robyn's parents, her biological parents, converted to polygamy from the LDS faith. They did not grow up polygamous, so Robyn and her siblings were the first ones. Meri's dad adopted the faith when she was 5, so he was not a child of polygamy. But Christine's family is the deepest rooted in the system, and those roots almost set a predetermined roadmap for what Christine would do with her life. Now, many people in the faith started to leave in the 90s, even in the 80s, as details about what was happening inside of the church that they were involved in, which was called the Apostolic United Brethren, and that exodus paved the way for many other people to leave. Christine's mom, Annie, was one of those that left. Her aunt, Kristen Decker, along with many of her aunts and uncles. Christine remained true to her faith because that's how she was trained, and her father, Rex, was the son of the former prophet that was killed, Rulon Allred. But Christine's polygamy is more than just on her dad's side. Rex, it's also on her mom's side, because her mom, Annie, she is a Lyran. Her mother, Anna, and her grandfather, Florin, are from the Lebaron family. Florin was a brother of Joel, who had the sect down in Mexico, and the brother of Irv. Now Florin abandoned his wives, and that's how Anna ended up being swooped up and picked up by Owen Allred, and became a wife of Owen Allred, who was the brother of Rulon Allred, Christine's grandfather. So Christine's maternal grandmother ended up marrying, in quotations, her great-uncle Owen, or her uncle, her great-uncle Owen. So Christine's deeply rooted in the system, and so for her leaving is going to be a lot different than everyone else. Meri had a life for about 5 years before, and Meri's dad, while she said on the show that he had a lot of wives, a lot of those women left him, and he wasn't as successful as they like to claim. But with Christine, the Allred name is synonymous with polygamy. So when she leaves, it's a little bit different. It's different because she doesn't have a framework or an understanding outside of that system other than family members that have left. And the family members that did leave, they're told from a very early age that those people are wicked and will go to hell. And it's better that they be out there and destroyed than for you to associate with them, because the women and men that leave will be destroyed. I mean, that's what the teachings are. And Christine had a devotion to her faith. So, I think my expectation here with her book is not one of she's gonna start giving us details about what Kody did and what Robyn did and that kind of gossip. I think it's gonna be more about what it was like for her to grow up like that and then realize it was all a lie. In a way, I would view this memoir maybe in a way about similar to the way that Ginger and Jill Duggar have addressed their leaving. That concept of removing and extracting what you've learned and realizing, oh my gosh, I don't believe this anymore, and trying to figure out what the truth is. Christine's faith is very different than Jill and Ginger, but I think it's gonna follow that same trajectory because leaving polygamy isn't as simple as, I don't believe this anymore, so I'm gonna leave. Or it's not as simple as, well, Kody didn't give me what I want, so I'm gonna leave. There's a whole system built in there to make her stay, to make her feel guilty for staying. And when she decides to leave, it really is recognizing that when she does leave and she becomes an outspoken person that says, I don't really think this works anymore, which she is now saying, that is going to in turn make her a target to individuals that are in her from her own family and from her old church. Now, Christine has said publicly that she has had a mix of reactions when she sees people from her family or from her church, specifically those ones that are still inside. Some of them, she says, will not talk to her. They don't want anything to do with her, and they view her as an apostate. And others, she said, are more willing to accept her and willing to have a conversation with her and embracing her. And I think that's kind of consistent across the board, although they are taught in the church to not associate with the apostates. And Christine, by writing this book, is truly becoming an apostate. And I think it can't go underscored what a significant emotional and psychological step that is for her, because once you become an apostate, the entire wrath of the cult will come down on you. And I've seen it firsthand with other people that have left. There's someone that's a member of my
as much as you can, even if Alex is not interested, or Maddie, if you're not interested, I would take the opportunity to sort of design the decorate or lay out the home and the furniture, picking the furniture out, and stuff like that. Do all that together, all right? Don't make a situation where it's yours or theirs. Make it a situation where it's ours. And I know this sounds crazy, especially for some guys where they're like, please don't make me decorate a home. You got to be invested. And the reason I say that is because I think that actually is one of those things that helps build intimacy. And that's, emotional intimacy between a husband and a wife, is to involve each other in these sort of simple, minor things, so that you're both taking ownership of something very special to you. So that's my advice for people who buy their first home. Figure it out together. That's a good way to learn compromise. Somebody might want one thing, the other spouse might want something else. You got to figure out how to negotiate in a partnership. And decorating a home, picking out furniture and stuff like that is a simple way to do that, and also a simple way to build emotional intimacy in your relationship. Okay, great.
Channel Ellen, who's from the group, and I have seen firsthand what she's gone through with people from the church and how she's been treated. And I've also seen how she's even been treated by other apostates, because it's not simple leaving. It might look like on TV everything is polished and perfect, but I would assume that behind the scenes there have been a lot of tears. There have been a lot of arguments. There have been a lot of fights. There have been probably a lot of just anger. anger about what she's gone through, sadness, frustration. And I truly think at the end of the day, the book is going to be about not just what the camera exposed, but what it was like to leave. There's a lot of books that are on polygamy already, that you can get a good understanding. Kristen Decker, who is from this book, from this group, wrote a book too. And Kristen's brother Jay recently wrote a book from a male perspective. His book's interesting because it goes into what it's like for a guy to have to try to juggle what's happening with the women, and with the men that figure out that this is all a lie. How devastating that can be. And he does talk about sort of that built-in narcissism for men, where they don't ever have to be accountable. And that for the average guy can make them feel it can break them, because if you're not narcissistic to begin with, and then you're supposed to be this like alpha male, and that's not your nature, it's really hard to live up to. I'm not saying that her tell-all or her memoir is going to meet everyone's expectations, because I feel like when someone's on reality television, there's this expectation that they have to be as transparent as possible and really need to be able to like get into the nitty-gritty, and we're supposed to like know everything about them. And in this world, we're not entitled to know everything, right? I think the biggest part of this for me is that this is a big step for her because it's going to put her in the classification as an apostate, which is a huge for her, and she has the opportunity to be a light for other women that are still trapped inside that mindset and possibly help show a way out. She has a lot more advantages. She had the money, she had the fame, which made it easier for her to leave. But she might be able to give people courage to leave. And that to me is more than I could ask from anyone in this family. I don't think they're ever going to do what I want, right? Because they're not me. But the best they can do is acknowledge that what they were part of was a lie. We'll see how she addresses and understands how this might have harmed other people, or, other people that were in the group or out of the group, and how that they were treated by her while she was still in. I don't know if she'll address that. I know that's been a sticking point for some people that have left, but it's a journey for every person. Now, to end this video, Kody Brown did a cameo recently, and in the cameo, he had this tip for a new couple that were buying a house, but remove that. He made a comment about decorating the house that I felt like was him trying to justify how much money he and Robyn ripped off from everyone else. Generally speaking, the last person on earth I would go to for advice about marriage or home ownership or any of the like is Kody Brown, because he has never owned a home, I think more than like 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 tops. He moves so fast. He never stays in a place long enough to put a dent in the overall amount that's owed. He also has had a couple foreclosures, and he's just moved so much now. He has a new place, a $2 million home, and a pretty big mortgage. But I did notice throughout the years that his house with Robyn was decorated way better than everyone else's house, right? And I truly think that the way that he justifies spending all this money and how they can justify it, or if this is just like their new story, is that, buying things together and decorating creates emotional intimacy, and it teaches you how to negotiate. I think it's weird how he refers to his relationships with people like it's a contract, like you negotiate with a wife, you negotiate. It's like the person is just a transaction. It's not even a human. But the way that he then discusses how picking out furniture and designing together, it builds intimacy. All I kept thinking about was all of the stuff that he and Robyn bought for their home that was over the top compared to everyone else. And so I think to him, it's just an excuse. I don't think that picking out furniture with my husband has made us closer by any means. I think sometimes it can be pretty stressful. Thankfully for my husband and I, we tend to agree on the aesthetic of our house, but we're not huge decorators. Either way, I just think it's an excuse, and it's an excuse and a justification for the fact that they've ripped everyone off and he's got to find a way to spin it. And I would love to know just how much child support he has to pay Christine. I would love to know the amount of back child support he owes. That's one topic I hope gets covered by Christine, because one of the biggest things that she did that proved that she had moved on and was really deconstructed from this was her willingness to sue Kody for child support and custody of their daughter. Truly, underneath their system, a woman never would have done that. No woman does that kind of stuff in that world, because they're told not to handle anything in the court of law. They're told specifically to handle it outside of the court with the church or whoever. So I knew for a fact that in September of 2024 that Christine was deconstructed because she took him to court, something that none of the other women have done. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. And please click the bell so you never miss a video. Bye, bestie.